Other things employers look at are driving histories. In Texas, you get a 3-year driving history unless you're a commercial driver. You get a CDL and you get a 5-year history. A lot of employers will also verify your employment claims and your education claims. And we see a lot of fraud in this area. And people do it in a variety of ways. Either they change their, the most common is they change their salary. And they will claim they made $160,000 a year, and we go and find out that they actually made $110,000 a year, or $90,000. But we also see people change their employment dates. If they've had an extended period of unemployment, they'll move that last date that they worked at that employer forward another 6 months to try and cushion that. We catch that, and a lot of our clients view that as an integrity issue. And even if they wouldn't have cared about it otherwise, they will not hire you if they catch you lying on the employment application. And we'll talk more about that. On the flip side, on the education side, we see a lot of fraud with degree mills. People claiming degrees that they bought from an unaccredited institution, which by the way, Texas has a list of degree mills that on the Department of Education's website. And in Texas, it's a crime to try and obtain employment using one of the schools listed on that list. But we see people claim, buy a degree. I've got a friend who bought his dog a PhD. And I've met some PhDs who probably the dog was smarter than. But at the same time, we see a lot of people who just claim degrees from schools that they either they attended and didn't finish the degree, or they just out of whole cloth make it up. And you might as well, if you're gonna lie, you might as well go all the way. But and as far as the employer is concerned, you get caught, you get caught. You may remember Radio Shack, who just changed their CEO again, several years ago, fired their CEO, who had been a long time, over 20-year employee of Radio Shack, and he got promoted to be their chief executive. And the Star-Telegram in Fort Worth ran their own little background check against his resume that was on the website, and found out that, in fact, he didn't have the degree he claimed, and he was gone that week after 20 plus years. And I've seen that happen with other clients too. For whatever reason, they're going to promote somebody, or they haven't previously run background checks on these people, and then they run the background check and find out something's inaccurate in their bio or in what they've previously attested to, and they have to terminate them. And after Sarbanes-Oxley and after all the Enron stuff that happened about 10 years ago, especially publicly traded companies cannot afford to have those kind of integrity issues, especially at senior management levels. And employers do run credit reports. I spend most of my time talking employers out of running credit reports, to be honest, but employers do run credit reports. The only time I think it's really a strong nexus between somebody's credit history and their job position is when that job has independent fiduciary responsibilities, where they're going to be making financial decisions on behalf of the company. The studies that are out there, though, say there's no correlation between credit history and integrity, or credit history and job performance. Even in the financial industry, there was one study done in the financial industry that said after, I think it was 4 years, people with credit history, bad credit coming in the door, were no less likely to be in progressive discipline or to have terminated voluntarily or involuntarily than the general population. So there's not a strong correlation. So when I hear from a client that says, we want to start running credit reports because these people handle cash, I do everything I can to talk them out of it, because there's not a correlation, and you get a lot of information in the credit report that you don't, as an employer, necessarily want. You see there's medical collection items, you see that there's, they've got all these joint accounts with a spouse, and so now I've got their marital status and I don't know what's going on there. A lot of stuff as an employer, I just don't want to know. So we spend a lot of time trying to talk employers out of it, but you need to know what's on there, and we'll talk about that in a bit. And then personal and professional references. Now, personal references, all that is an intelligence test. Are you smart enough to list 3 people who'll say nice things about you? And I mean, that's what it is, right? I mean, do you ever think, okay, just to be fair, I'm going to give this person because I know they hate my guts. You don't list those people, right? And so employers really they may ask for those, but rarely do they really check those personal references, and there's just not a lot of value. Where we do deal with it is we've got some clients who are in high security areas, and we'll use those 3 people to develop another 3 or another 6 references beyond the people that's person listed, so maybe people who aren't prepped for them. But every now and then, we'll talk to somebody and they'll say, he listed me, and then they'll proceed to throw them under the bus, and so that person failed the intelligence test. But for the most part, professional references aren't very useful. Personal references aren't very useful, but professional references, maybe yes, maybe no. If we're talking directly to a former supervisor, somebody who's directly managed this person, especially recently, that's helpful. But if it's just a coworker, again, that's more like a personal reference, because it's somebody who, hopefully, if the applicant's smart, has prepared to receive that phone call. And in some cases, and it's rare, but we do have clients who run civil litigation searches, look for liens and judgments, other indicators of how you've conducted your personal business. But again, those are mostly on C-level positions or on people with independent fiduciary responsibility or high-profile positions where it would be embarrassing to the company if they didn't know that something was out there and it came out in the media, or if a competitor started using that as a tool in their sales process. Yes, sir? The other thing that employers are doing more and more is looking at your social media profile. And I'm sure y'all have heard this. And everybody knows LinkedIn, but there are hundreds of social media platforms out there, and there are tools out there that employers can use to dig up all of that stuff. And now, most of you are my age, in that range. And so back in school, when we were in college, right, somebody may take some photos, and hopefully those are all buried in a shoebox in the back of somebody's closet from those frat parties from the 80s, and all the bad, hair and the bad fashion choices and maybe some of the dumb things that happened to be caught on film back then. I'm never running for president just because some of those pictures may show up then. But today, everybody puts everything. So these parents are spending all this money on sending these people to school, and this is what their $120,000 for 4 years is getting them, right? But it doesn't go away. And so employers are checking, oftentimes off the record, they're not documenting it. And I've got a whole presentation I do for employers about why if they're going to do it, they need to have a real structured process and keep it out of the hands of decision makers. There's a whole process you need to be following if you're an employee. If any of you are HR people, go look at my webinar on that, because it's an easy way to get burned otherwise. But this is out there, and employers want to know. They're not concerned about stupid college stuff so much, but they are concerned about things that would go to your character or your safety in a certain situation. If you're in a hospital environment, especially working with meds, and you're a member of the website for the marijuana reform laws, and you're on there all the time talking about how you got toked up last weekend and stuff, that may be a real concern for a healthcare employer, right? Or law enforcement, except in California. But in other, there are things out there that employers probably legitimately need to know, because what happens are things like Jared Loughner. You will remember this guy. He's the one who shot Congresswoman Giffords and killed several other people last year. Within hours of his shooting spree, the media had his social media presence information, his crazy videos, his crazy postings out there, and that wasn't a workplace shooting. But had it been, the media would have been at that employer that afternoon saying, "Why didn't you know this? It's right there, publicly available. The whole world knows." So employers are in a rock and a hard place, right? They're expected to know what they can reasonably be expected to know about this person before they put them into the workplace. And at the same time, nobody wants them snooping around too much in my social media presence or all that. So there's kind of a balance that they've got to work through. The rule for employers or for job seekers, though, is make sure your social media presence passes the don't hire a freak test. Okay, many employers, and especially recruiters, and especially if you're dealing with outside recruiters, they're going to go Google your site, your name, and your email address, And if they find a picture like this up there, they may say, well, you know what? I'm not sure. Say the applicant was this female here, and they say, yeah, we don't want those kind of people hanging around our office. And I know the CEO would freak out if this guy picks her up for lunch one day in the parking lot, or comes to the Christmas party with her, or whatever. Well, and you look deeper, of course, there's issues there, because you look deeper, and it looks like she's maybe in a ballroom at a conference of some sort. This guy may be a professional circus geek who gets paid to be, stand at a booth and draw attraction. I can't imagine what he'd be selling, but something. But this gal may have just been somebody who was attending that conference. Her girlfriend said, hey, pose and take a picture through his earlobe. That's his earlobe, by the way. And so she's peeking through the earlobe, and her girlfriend snaps a picture, throws it up on Facebook, tags her, Facebook or any of the other million social websites out there, and now her picture her name is forever attached to this guy, and prospective employers are going to look at it. And so what I think I'm telling you is expect the least from the employers when they're looking at your social media presence. Make sure it is as clean as possible. So if you see stuff, have your friends take that stuff down. And what's on the internet? Once it's on the internet, it can be shared, it can be sent on. I mean, there was we got time. There's a grad student, or an undergrad student at Duke, and her senior year, she put together a PowerPoint talking about all her sexual exploits during college at Duke. Pictures of the guys, like most of the rugby team, all these people like that, and their attributes in the bedroom. And she shared it with 3 friends. And it's like the old Pert commercial. And they shared it with 3 friends, and next thing you know, it's gone viral. And now, her name is Karen. If she were to apply for a job now, if somebody Googles her name, the first thing that comes up is this PowerPoint. Problem is, these poor guys, somebody Googles their name in Duke because they know went to school at Duke, bam, this PowerPoint also comes up. And so you got, and this is probably a bigger message for younger people, but everything out there is once it's left your computer, you've got no control over it.